Chaz Marler from Pair of Dice Paradise here, and there's no doubt that creating YouTube videos and audio podcasts are an excellent way to learn more about the board game industry and get more involved in its community. But a question that I'm frequently asked is if creating content is also a good way to open doors towards working in the board game industry as well. Well, I think it's a valid question, especially considering that over the past year or two, several media makers, including Hunter Shelburne of Weapons Grade Channel, Lance Meister, aka Undead Viking, and myself, have taken on official positions at board game companies. Well, now we can add Bruce Voge of the Party Gamecast, featuring the Party Gamecast, to this roster. Because just this month, Bruce accepted a position with North Star Games to manage their social media marketing. Well, I bumped into Bruce at BGG-Con one morning, right before the exhibitor booths opened, so I took the opportunity to ask him about his recent position and whether he thinks that producing board game media is actually a valid way to help someone else break into the industry. Here's what he had to say on the subject based on his experience.
So the main thing is that I want to discuss is it's going to be a little bit about myself, Hunter Shelburne, and all the others that have been media content creators who have been being hired on into the industry as social media people or other positions.
Yeah.
And now you're joining those ranks.
Absolutely.
Just within the last month.
Yeah. Been last about 35 days.
So tell me, why is it that you found each other? Why did North Star come to you, and why did you go to North Star? How'd that all work, and what do you hope to get out of it?
It's actually a really weird thing because I enjoyed what I was doing. I was sort of an independent cat. I did, I was an entertainer, so I did, like bar nights, and I really liked what I was doing, DJ work, which I still do, and it was just a bunch of stuff I was cobbling together and had a really kind of free life and liked it. And North Star put up in their email blast, hey, we're looking for somebody to do this job. And they had put it out to the world, and I kind of looked at it and went, that'd be kind of cool, but eh. And then I went to a convention, and Dominic from North Star said, hey, do you get our email blasts? And I said, well, yeah. He said, any of those jobs you're interested in?
Really?
And I said, well, I don't feel like being rejected. I kind of like the relationship we have, where I sort of fanboy over you about a couple of games you make, and you try not to be uncomfortable. I don't think we need the world where you reject my dream of getting into the board game hobby. And he said, put an application in. And I put an application in, and apparently he got over 100 of them.
Wow.
And it kind of kept paring down into just media people. And in the end it was, so I love Happy Salmon, I love Wits and Wagers, I love Say Anything, I like the evolution stuff, but I'm a party gamer, so let's not lie to anybody. And so part of it was that with all of that I was a good fit.
Yes.
Plus the thing I think a lot of us forget, or maybe and I don't think about it, but I never thought of myself as like in the industry because I'm a dude in my house making media.
Right, you're on the outside looking into it.
Yes, it was always the way I kind of described it to Dominic is I wrote Inside Baseball, I didn't play baseball. And with some of that, you forget how valuable your contribution is, and I know how egotistical that sounds, but you totally forget that you really, for 4.5 years, I've been in the industry. I may have been doing it a different way. I wasn't here at shows and doing this and pushing games to everybody, but we're more knowledgeable than your average bear.
Well, no, and you get so used to it. You're always around yourself and you're on. I don't think it's egotistical at all, because it's true. You get so used to it, and you just don't realize, how many people what you're creating is connecting to.
Absolutely.
And then, when you come to a convention like this, it smacks you in the face when people come up. Oh, I see. I've heard your stuff. It's like, oh, people are listening, and it is out there.
Yeah.
And that includes the publishers.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think it's a case where, so if you're looking for someone to do this, like in my case, I do content marketing and social media.
Okay.
Okay, so I've already been doing that. I've been making media, which is the content media part or the content marketing part of it. I've been making content, as we all have, for so long. So I don't need to relearn that. I don't need to learn what it's like to make content for the board game space. I've been doing it for 4 years, so it's an easy fit there. For social media, all of us that do this and are in any kind of success at it, even as small as the success with the Party Gamecast is, it's some. You've had to manage a media brand there, and we forget about that because we like each other so much and everyone's such good friends, but that you're managing a media brand if you're doing this, if you half care. Don't get me wrong, there are some people that are like, hey, it is what it is, I make it in my basement, I don't care what you think, and that's great, and those people are wonderful too. But for a lot of us, especially a lot of us that have gone kind of the Dice Tower path, we're like, we want to be part of the Dice Tower network, we want to actively be family friendly, we want a certain amount of quality in what we do, we need a certain amount of regularity in our content, we already care more than most. So I think for companies, it's such a great fit because like, well, number one, I'm buying a brand, which is smart. You know, the fact that Passport can get you, you come with something.
That was part of it. You know, my videos and everything. You know, my personality for all of us. Our personality, we are our brand.
Absolutely. And the good thing about that is, I think, is none of us are good enough at this to lie. We're not good enough to create like a persona that we hope people get into. This is us, and it's very easy. It's almost like a lot of us have been doing the longest job interview in history.
It is, yes.
Because for a lot of companies, they go, well, I know what like I know he likes party games. I know he likes my party games. I know he can do the social media part. I know he can do the content marketing part. If the hardest thing I have to do is fit him into our system, then that's better than about anybody I could get. I mean, you know, don't get me wrong, I'm sure there's someone at Gillette that's probably really sharp, but then teaching that person at Gillette, hey, now I have to teach you the board game industry. And then what I have to do is get you past all the cynical board game people that when someone from Gillette comes in, you kind of have to, you know, really, I do play games. I know this thing. I've been this play. We've already gone through all those barriers to entry.
So I think
we've established ourselves. People realize that we really care about what we're talking about, all that great stuff. So I think that really helps and makes it so that I think more and more media and content creators are going to find their way into the industry.
So kind of to recap, the major points here seem to be, you know, not only creating the content, but you took the time, and I think all of us that have done it have taken the time to create a relationship beforehand with the publishers. Be present, you know, not just email them out of the blue, but you know, make a presence, go out and try to give before we take from the industry.
Oh, absolutely. And I think mostly, and I think publishers feel this way too, even if what we do is it all ends up working, we give to John and Jane Game Player, and then we sort of reap our reward through the publishers. I don't think they mind that because we've taken the time to establish ourselves with all the fantastic people who play board games. That was sort of our admission ticket, you know, that we did take all that time to be selfless. And if someone takes the time, I mean, you know, we were talking about this the other day, it takes you, what, 2 hours per minute of content?
1.5 to 2.5 sometimes, depending on the video.
Per 1 minute of media. So you've paid your dues, and you've paid them to the world, and I think most game companies say, well, if this guy is going to pay these kind of dues, he wants this so bad that I at least have to entertain working with him. And I think that's why a lot of media people are finding their way into some of these sort of creative places in these companies, because they're saying, well, if this guy cares this much and will do it with his time in his basement, I can't imagine what he can do, or she can do. I keep using he, but it's because it's the two of us. But what he or she can do with a little bit of money behind them and a company that cares and good products. So I think it's going to be a natural fit, and I think you're just going to see more and more of it, especially as social media and content marketing become a thing. As soon as board games get big enough, that's a thing they can consider.
Yeah, it's not a guarantee or slam dunk, but I think it is a way to really hedge your bets if you want to get further into the industry.
Absolutely, and I think anybody out there that gets into the content creation, really puts the years in to be a brand, when you see those job listings come, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to put, 4 years of the Party Gamecast on your resume. I know we were talking to Chris, your moderator Chris,
oh, yes.
and at one point he said, I don't know if I put Flip the Table on my resume or not. And everybody kind of said the same thing. If you're going into board games, you better.
Yeah.
Because that's a thing you've done. It's a thing people care about. And it's a thing you've worked at. You know, and I really do agree. I think you're just going to see more of us that make it over here.
I think so too, and it's kind of nice to see. You know, it not only legitimizes in a way what we've been doing, but also gets more people who are passionate about the industry into the industry.
Absolutely. And one last tip, because matter of fact, Donald Dennis from On Board Games and I were talking about this last night. If you make a podcast, don't call it a podcast. Make a brand.
Oh,
Call it On Board Games. It also happens to be a podcast.
Yes.
Because if you end up calling yourself the blah 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 podcast, it's very hard to get out of that thing. And it's not. We need to stop thinking about this as, you know, punk rock DIY. We're making a thing. We're making a show. It really is. At the end of the day, it really is. Gosh darn it, a show. And we're just working a little harder than people that have the money behind them.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Not a problem. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and have fun at North Star.
There's nothing but fun. I get to do Happy Salmon. That is fantastic.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Absolutely, and thank you. Now we can do the real handshake, not the fake handshake. Thank you.